that her disastrous strategy of announcing a departure date from Iraq created another opening for ISIS there. The facts, these statements make only passing acquaintance with reality. There was no U.S. invasion of Libya. Clinton initially opposed but then sought credit for the NATO-led air campaign to help rebels overthrow Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. Trump spoke in support of U.S. intervention at the time. While the violence destabilized Libya, Islamic State inroads there have been more recent and are largely limited to a small coastal area of the country. Arguments about Iranian domination of the Middle East predate Clinton's tenure, going back a decade to the George W. Bush administration's deposing of Saddam Hussein in neighboring Iraq. While Secretary of State, Clinton supported arming Syria's moderate rebels, but the Islamic State group only arrived later. It's unclear what effect such a policy would have had, as President Barack Obama rejected the advice at the time. And she had nothing to do with the disastrous strategy of giving a departure date from Iraq. It was the George W. Bush administration that announced the planned withdrawal of U.S. forces from Iraq in 2008. Trump, U.S. Ambassador to Libya Chris Stevens and his staff made hundreds and hundreds of requests for security. They were desperate. They needed help. Hillary Clinton's State Department refused them all. She started the war that put them in Libya, denied him the security he asked for, then left him there to die. The facts: Trump greatly exaggerates the security requests, not all of which were denied, and gets the history of U.S. Libyan relations wrong. The reference to security requests appears to reflect the Republican-led House Select Committee on Benghazi's tally of requests/concerns related to the diplomatic outpost in Benghazi. For many of those, there's no record of denials. And some security upgrades did occur before the September 11, 2012, attack that killed Stevens and 3 other Americans. Clinton did not start the war in Libya. She supported a NATO intervention well after large-scale violence had broken out between Gaddafi's forces and rebels. Nor did the conflict put Stevens or any U.S. diplomat in Libya. The U.S. had maintained a full-fledged embassy there since President George W. Bush re-established diplomatic relations with Gaddafi's government in 2006. Several congressional investigations have shown that Clinton had no role in military decisions related to Benghazi, and that it would have been impossible for U.S. armed forces to intervene in time to save Stevens. Trump, Hillary also wants to spend hundreds of billions to resettle Middle Eastern refugees in the United States, on top of the current record level of immigration. The facts: for a businessman, Trump is shaky on his numbers. The entire U.S. budget for refugee resettlement is less than $1.2 billion a year, and that includes refugees from Cuba, Bhutan, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Even including the value of all future public benefits they might receive, and excluding their contribution to the country through taxes, Trump's assertion about the cost of resettlement is still baffling. Trump: I started off in Brooklyn, New York, not so long ago, with a small loan and built a business that today is worth well over $10 billion. The facts: Trump's $1 million loan from his father was just the beginning of his family subsidies, which included a far larger inheritance, loan guarantees and even occasional bailouts, one of which was found to be illegal by New Jersey casino regulators. As for the value of Trump's business, every independent appraisal has found his assets to be worth far less than he says. Forbes says Trump is worth less than half what he claims. Trump: Hillary Clinton accepted $58,000 in jewelry from the government of Brunei when she was Secretary of State, plus millions more for her foundation. The Sultan of Brunei has pushed oppressive Sharia law. The facts: Clinton is not sporting Brunei bling. In September 2012, she accepted a $58,000 jewelry set with gold, sapphire, and diamond earrings, a necklace and bracelet, given by the Queen of Brunei when Clinton visited for meetings and to inaugurate an English language training program, according to the Federal Register. The gift was not to her, but to the United States. Federal law prohibits officials from keeping such gifts unless they pay the estimated value to the U.S. government. According to the State Department's Protocol Office, Clinton chose not to buy the jewelry, and instead turned it over to the General Services Administration, the standard procedure for most gifts from foreign leaders. It's true that Brunei is an Islamic nation that observes Sharia law and has been widely criticized for its human rights record, particularly when it comes to gays and lesbians. But gift exchanges are standard practice. As with almost all gifts to all officials, the Federal Register notice says non-acceptance would cause embarrassment to donor and U.S. government. Trump, our trade deficit with China soared 40% during Clinton's time as Secretary of State. The facts: Trump's claim is more than double the actual increase. From late 2008 through 2012, a period coinciding with Clinton's tenure, the trade deficit with China rose 17.6%. Trump's campaign may be using data from the end of 2009 through 2013, when the deficit did rise 40%, but that does not match up with Clinton's time in office and leaves out a sharp, recession-induced drop in 2009. More broadly, the Secretary of State is not typically held responsible for the trade deficit, which mostly reflects the health of the U.S. and global economies, the difference in how much the nation spends and saves, and trade policies implemented by the U.S. Trade Representative. Trump, we are the highest taxed nation in the world. The facts: closer to the opposite is true. The U.S. tax burden is actually one of the lowest among the 34 developed and large emerging market economies that make up the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Taxes made up 26% of the total U.S. economy in 2014, according to the OECD. That's far below Sweden's tax burden of 42.7%, Britain's